am wrong. 10 angels swearing I was right would make no difference. I do believe with all my heart and mind and spirit that I, not as president, but as a humble servant of God, will receive justice without mercy if I fail to show mercy. Finally, I feel that Richard Nixon and his loved ones have suffered enough and will continue to suffer no matter what I do, no matter what we, as a great and good nation, can do together to make his goal of peace come true. Now, therefore, I, Gerald R. Ford, President of the United States, pursuant to the pardon power conferred upon me by Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, have granted, and by these presents do grant, a full, free, and absolute pardon unto Richard Nixon for all offenses against the United States which he, Richard Nixon, has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from July 20, 1969 through August 9, 1974.
September 5th, Sacramento, California.
All of a sudden, a young woman dressed in a red flowing gown jumped at the president, lunged at him, and we're told she had a gun in her hand. Secret Service.
The White House press office has now identified the woman as Lynn Ellis Fromm, 26 years old, of Sacramento, and they say that she is linked with the Charles Manson family.
Secret Service agent Larry Boondorf was the man who stopped her.
I noticed a hand coming up very low and had something in it.
The gun was about 2 feet from the president.
I saw a hand coming up behind several others in the front row, and obviously there was a gun in that hand.
We interrupt this program to bring you the following special report from ABC News.
This is the latest on the apparent attempt to fire a gun at President Ford.
He was right. It was the latest, but not the last. 3 weeks later, a rerun. On September 22nd, in another California town, San Francisco, another radical, another gun, the same president. Sarah Jane Moore's motives were confused. Her purpose was not.
I knew that that's the only shot I would have was a headshot. He came out, looked right at me, and after I fired the shot, he stopped. Cold, and I did have time for a second shot, had never planned for a second shot, had practiced and was psyched for one shot.
One shot might have done it if it hadn't been for a man who almost wasn't there. Vietnam veteran Oliver Semple just happened to be downtown.
I said, well, the guy's from Michigan. I've never seen him in person. I'll stick around to see him, if I can see what he looks like. Everybody started pushing everybody. For some strange reason, I looked down, and I had seen Sarah Jane Moore go in her purse and pull it. I yelled, "The bitch has got a gun," before I made the lunge for it, as the trigger was going off. I grabbed her, and about 10 agents and 20 policemen were on us all, just like that.
That's the one regret I have, that it was not successful.
For myself and for our nation, I want to thank my predecessor for all he has done to heal our land. In this outward and physical ceremony, we attest once again to the inner and spiritual strength of our nation. As my high school teacher, Miss Julia Coleman, used to say, we must adjust to changing times and still hold to unchanging principles. Here before me is a Bible used in the inauguration of our first president in 1789. And I have just taken the oath of office on the Bible my mother gave me just a few years ago, opened to a timeless admonition. Good evening. Tonight I want to have an unpleasant talk with you about a problem that's unprecedented in our history. With the exception of preventing war, this is the greatest challenge that our country will face during our lifetime. The energy crisis has not yet overwhelmed us, but it will if we do not act quickly. It's a problem that we will not be able to solve in the next few years, and it's likely to get progressively worse through the rest of this century. We must not be selfish or timid if we hope to have a decent world for our children and our grandchildren. We simply must balance our demand for energy with our rapidly shrinking resources. By acting now, we can control our future instead of letting the future control us. 2 days from now, I will present to the Congress my energy proposals. Its members will be my partners, and they have already given me a great deal of valuable advice. Many of these proposals will be unpopular. Some will cause you to put up with inconveniences and to make sacrifices. The most important thing about these proposals is that the alternative may be a national catastrophe. Further delay can affect our strength and our power as a nation. Our decision about energy will test the character of the American people and the ability of the President and Congress to govern this nation. This difficult effort will be the moral equivalent of war, except it will be uniting our efforts to build, not to destroy. Now, I know that some of you may doubt that we face real energy shortages. The 1973 gas lines are gone, and with this springtime weather, our homes are warm again. But our energy problem is worse tonight than it was in 1973 or a few weeks ago in the dead of winter. It's worse because more waste has occurred.
Good evening. The U.S. Embassy in Tehran has been invaded and occupied by Iranian students. The Americans inside have been taken prisoner.
An ABC News brief brought to you by Ford Mustang. Now from New York, Tom Gerald.
Good evening. President Carter warned Iran today of extremely grave consequences if even one U.S. hostage is harmed. The students at the embassy responded that harsh words from Washington would only make them move up the date of the spy trials. ABC's Jules Bergman reports one of the Shah's doctors says the Shah could leave the U.S. for additional treatments now. But Iran's acting foreign minister says that would be intolerable. ABC News will have a special report on Iran tonight at 11:30, 10:30 Central Time. Now this.
Ford Mustang, it's a great combination of sports car performance and fuel economy. Mustang, it's a great sports car for the 80s.
350 Americans evacuated from Pakistan following Wednesday's riots were flown back to Washington tonight on board a special chartered jet. That's News Brief. More news later on this ABC station.
Sunday, they're the perfect couple with the perfect little girl.
I did such bad things.
And a secret life that can tear it apart.
We've done awful things together.
When she was bad.
And next, it's an open invitation when Richard Dawson hosts Playboy's Roller Disco and Pajama Party.
In the search for full beer taste, many a beer drinker has tried the usual brands and found some too light. They've turned to imported brands and found some too heavy. But in the serious beer drinker's search, there is a ray of hope, Carling Black Label. Since 1840, a Canadian heritage of richer, fuller, bigger beer taste. More beer taste for your money. More beer taste for your thirst. Carling Black Label. Canadian heritage. Great beer taste.
Thank you. Thank you. Senator Hatfield, Mr. Chief Justice, Mr. President, Vice President Bush, Vice President Mondale, Senator Baker, Speaker O'Neill, Reverend Mumaw, and my fellow citizens. To a few of us here today, this is a solemn and most momentous occasion.